Hello, friends. For a series of reflections by our campus ministry office during this season of Lent, several of us were asked to choose a favorite cross of ours and reflect on its personal significance for us. And I chose this cross. It's a cross that I acquired on our World Youth Day pilgrimage to Poland in the summer of 2016. And I purchased it in the town of Zakopane, Poland, which is on the southern border of Poland in the Tatras Mountains. It's where our own brother Richard Dukowski was born and grew up. And it's a region known for its wood carvings. There are many wood carvings from Zakopane in both of our schools, at Founders Hollow Retreat House, in both of our houses here at Kellenberg, here at Chaminade and at Kellenberg Memorial High School. And this cross has special significance to me for several reasons. First, it reminds me of my wonderful experiences at World Youth Days. I've been privileged to attend 6 of them all together, and I'm hoping to go on one more in the summer of 2023, one more at least, and that one's to Lisbon in Portugal. And secondly, of course, the cross reminds me of my friendship with Brother Rizzard, a very close friend of mine. And what I also like about this cross is that it's very unique, it's very different. It's carved into a tree bark. Rather than seeing the entire body of Jesus, we see just his face. And it's very rugged, it's very rough hewn, it's quite rustic in its appearance. And if you were to look closely at the face of Jesus, you see his suffering, his anguish, borne with quiet dignity. And that reminds me of a favorite scripture passage of mine from the prophet Isaiah about Jesus, the suffering servant. And we read that passage actually on every Good Friday. And that passage from scripture goes something like this. He had no stately form or majesty to attract us, no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Like one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he took on our infirmities and carried our sorrows, yet we considered him stricken by God, struck down and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was placed upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. And that's a beautiful and telling and profound sentence to remember during this Lenten season. By his wounds, by Christ's wounds, we are healed. And this cross from Zakopane, Poland, showing the suffering face of Jesus, reminds us of the torment and the torture that Jesus endured for our sakes. And I think there are 2 takeaways that I would like to dwell on with this cross. The first is that by Jesus' cross and resurrection, all of us, are saved. And I feel great gratitude for that. And the second is this. When we find ourselves troubled, afflicted, weighed down by sorrows or difficulties or trials in life, let us turn to Jesus. He was acquainted with grief. He knew sorrow. He bore our wounds. He understood iniquity. And he wants to heal us of all of that. By his wounds we are healed. Praise be Jesus Christ for that. Praise be Jesus Christ now and forever. Thanks for listening. And remember, when we suffer, we can turn to Jesus, who knew suffering quite profoundly.